Alright, so we'll start a new lesson today. Today is the 7th. Setting something up over here. Okay. Happy Tuesday. And this is going to be section 9.4. It's called adding and subtracting rational exponents. Day 1. We're going to have 2 days, today and tomorrow. And then Thursday is going to be your quiz. Alright, so just as a warm-up, whenever we add or subtract rational exponents, it sounds kind of fancy, but what if we just had 3/4 plus 7/9? Those are rational expressions. Two fractions, we need a common denominator. What would the LCD be? Well, we need a factor of 4 and a factor of 9, so 36 would be the LCD. Each fraction needs to have a 4 and a 9, a factor of 4 and 9 in the denominator. So I'd multiply this by 9 over 9, multiply this by 4 over 4, and we get 9 times 3 is 27 over 36, plus 28 over 36 is equal to 55 over 36. So if you understand that, you're going to understand today's lesson. So I have 6 problems for us today. First one says 9 over 10a plus 4c over 5b. So think about what the least common denominator is between 10 and 5. The answer is 10. But we need a factor of a and we need a factor of b. So the LCD, in order to combine these two fractions, we need to have 10ab. So I have to multiply this fraction by b over b. I need to multiply this one by 2a over 2a. And we would get 9b over 10ab plus 8ac over 10ab. And if we combine that, it's 9b plus 8ac all over 10ab. That would be the answer. Trickiest part is finding that LCD. Alright, so let's try a second one. What about if it was 2x over 5ab to the third plus 4y over 3a squared b to the second? Well, let's figure out our LCD first. Between 5 and 3, the LCD is 15. We have a and a to the second, so we have to have the least in common. So we could easily convert a to a squared by multiplying by an a. So I'm going to make my LCD 15a squared, and then we would have to have a b to the third. That would take care of the b's. So if every denominator has this, we can combine them. So on the left, I have to multiply by 3a over 3a. The second one, we have to multiply by 5b over 5b. And this would give us 6ax plus 20by, all divided by our common denominator of 15a squared b to the third. It's not pretty, but that's how you do these problems. It's not a hard thing to do. All right, 3. What if we had x minus 5 over 2x minus 6 minus x minus 7 over 4x minus 12? Remember, the denominator is the most important. The denominator is the most important. So let's factor our denominators, and then we could figure out what the least common denominator would be. Okay, so at this point, I know my least common denominator definitely needs an x minus 3. Both of them have that, so that's good. And then between 4 and 2, what would be the least common denominator? 4. So I need to multiply the one on the left by 2 over 2. And this is what we have. We have 2 times x minus 5 minus x minus 7 all over 4 times x minus 3. Now just, some of you that are really good notice that over here I didn't put a parentheses. You're subtracting this whole fraction, so you need to put a parentheses here. So let's combine this now. We're never going to distribute the bottom. Leave the bottom alone, but on top we could distribute 2x minus 10 minus x plus 7 divided by 4 times x minus 3. And we get x, negative 10 plus 7 is minus 3. So we actually see that it's the same factor on top and bottom. The answer is not 4, right? It's just like if you had 2 over 8. You don't just say the answer is 4, it's 1/4. If you cancel something out, it turns into a 1. So this is just going to turn into 1/4 would be the answer. All right, there's 3 more. We're halfway done. Number 4, it says x over x squared plus 5x plus 6 minus 2 over x squared plus 4x plus 4. So we definitely have to factor out the denominators. And let's see what our least common denominator is. This has an x plus 3. All of them need an x plus 3. So I'm going to have to multiply the one on the right by it. This has a factor of x plus 2. So does this one. All of them need a factor of x plus 2. This one actually has another factor of x plus 2. So all of our denominators need to have all of the same factors. So let's figure out what we're missing. We're missing a factor of x plus 2 here, so I'll multiply top and bottom by it. We're missing a factor of x plus 3 here, so I'll multiply top and bottom by it. So what this turns into is x times x plus 2 minus 2 times x plus 3, all divided by our common denominator, x plus 3 times x plus 2 times x plus 2. We could distribute the top, leave the bottom alone, x squared plus 2x minus 2x minus 6. These would cancel. X squared minus 6 doesn't factor anymore, so that's just going to stay the way it is. And on the bottom, you could write x plus 2 to the second power if you want, or you could just leave them separate. It's no better or worse if you leave them separate, or if you want to write it together, if you want to make it look a little fancier. Okay. 2 more. What about 1 divided by 4a squared minus 4a plus 1 plus 1 minus a over 1 minus 2a. Now this is kind of interesting because I think it was last week we talked about this, and we said that 1 minus a, we really should write it a minus 1. We could factor out a negative 1, and that would make it just kind of be flipped around. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If we factor right off the bat, this would be 2a, let me see here, this would be 2a minus 1 times 2a minus 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange these. So it's just negative a plus 1, and the bottom would be negative 2a plus 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a negative 1 from the top and bottom. So we could actually cancel out the factors of negative 1, and we're left with a minus 1 over 2a minus 1. So quite a bit easier to do this kind of problem if you could see that. If you could rearrange and factor out a negative 1, that makes it a little bit easier. It could still be done if you leave it alone, it's just more work. So now let's talk about our least common denominator. We definitely need a 2a minus 1 because this has it and this has it, but this has another factor of 2a minus 1. So we have to put that on this one too. So when it's all said and done, we're going to have 1 plus a minus 1 times 2a minus 1, all divided by 2a minus 1 times 2a minus 1. 1 plus, this would be 2a squared minus, let's see, 2a squared minus a minus 2a is minus 3a, and then plus 1. We always leave the bottom factored. So we get 2a squared minus 3a plus 2 over 2a minus 1 squared. Now I can't think of any number that multiplies to be 4 and adds up to be negative 3. So the top doesn't factor. That's all we have to do for this one. All right, and the last problem, let's take a look at number 6. It says x plus 2 over x minus 1 minus x minus 3 over x plus 1. Okay, everything's already factored for us. You're welcome. I can hear you guys saying thank you through the computer here. You're welcome, I factored it. So now the LCD, we definitely need a factor of x minus 1. We definitely need a factor of x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply by what we're missing. X minus 1 over x minus 1. Over here, so we need a factor of x plus 1 over x plus 1. And what this looks like is x plus 1 times x plus 2 minus parentheses x minus 3 times x minus 1 all over x minus 1 times x plus 1. Now, you don't want to do this because you're adding and subtracting. You can only cancel if you're multiplying and dividing. So we're going to have to distribute the whole top. This would be x squared plus 2x plus 1x minus x squared minus x minus 3x is minus 4x plus 3. This would be x minus 1 times x plus 1. So on top we get x squared plus 3x plus 2 minus x squared plus 4x minus 3. I'm just distributing this. All divided by x minus 1, x plus 1. These cancel. 3x plus 4x is 7x. 2 minus 3 is minus 1 over x minus 1 times x plus 1. Okay, so that would be the answer. It's not hard to do, getting a common denominator just like you did in middle school, but that's how you do a problem like that. So for homework, what I would like you to do is please do page 573. I'd like you to do numbers 11, 12, 20 to 27, and then on practice 9.4, I'd like you to please do numbers 1 to 6. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.